What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Just doing a little daily check-in with the price action here. If you caught the live stream yesterday, you know that I'm calling for prices to go lower. I wonder, actually, yeah, looking at it here, I was calling for this to be the high point, though leaving the door open to go higher. It could happen, but I was putting my bet that would have been the high there, because if we take this relative high here, the relative high, our most recent high, to our relative low, I don't know, whichever low you want to take, it's kind of a tweezer bottom here. You tipped the 618, the golden ratio right here, that's the 618. Tipped it. Finding resistance yesterday provided the validation and the rejection that we needed to see. We are at the 382 right now. It is still possible to bounce from here. It absolutely is. So I'm not taking prices off of the, I'm not taking the 70K to potentially like 71K targets off the table just yet. And I say targets, that doesn't mean I'm expecting them personally. I'm just saying if this happens, that doesn't mean that it's go time. It could, but it also would just still be another lower high. Finding resistance at kind of common areas to find resistance after seeing a play like this, and then we could proceed to go lower. You know, I do think right now, to be very clear, I do think that we will go lower than this low here, but we've still yet to see enough evidence in the charts to suggest that this isn't the low. Because for right now, for all we know, I mean, that really could be the low. It's a nice double bottom, tweezer bottom there, finding support at previous areas of support. My main reason for believing that we are going to go lower is, generally speaking, after Bitcoin finds its high around the halving, after we have that halving high. And for this, I'll actually go to the index, pull it up on the weekly, and we can just take a quick little stroll through. Oh yeah, I'm going to pause the music. I'm sorry, guys. It's been playing for a little bit. Hit that like button, subscribe if you liked the music. Hit that like button and subscribe if you liked me pausing the music. Either way, man, you know what to do. The first halving was in November, right? November of 2012, at the end of November here. We can see that the high that we had beforehand was here. We dropped about 50%. Okay, this one's kind of unorthodox. It kind of stands out from the rest of them, but the main kind of key takeaway here is that from the high around the halving, let's see, right here would have been like this week, I guess. I don't know. From the halving time, I should say, 7 weeks later is when we started to break out. So it was about a month and a half, right? A little bit over a month and a half, a little under 2 months there, before we started to break out higher. So we were boring for a little bit, right? We had a lagged phase. 2016 in July, and I know this is just the same old song and dance that we've been going through, but same kind of idea to keep it fresh in our heads here. Top to bottom, right, the next halving was in July 9th, if I remember correctly, July 9th of 2016. The recent high was here. To the lowest point, we dropped about 40%. That's a bit more on par for what we've seen, and I say on par. We've only had 4 halvings now, so who knows what on par is. But this is more comparable to the one that we'll see next after this, is all I'm trying to say, the 2020 halving. Let's see. Or maybe it's not, actually, because we had the COVID dump too, to be completely fair. But from the week of the halving right here until we broke out, essentially we didn't really like break out until this week over here. It was 23 weeks, 161 days. That's a little bit over a third of a year, right? So that's quite some time, okay? And Bitcoin didn't find its low at that point until 4 weeks later, until about a month later, a little bit less than a month later. We go to the next halving here. In May of 2020, you can see here we did have the COVID dump. From this relative high to this low point, we dropped 63%. So I don't know why I was thinking it was on par, 40% drop. That's not a 40% drop. Maybe this is what it was. I was taking the monthly close or the weekly close. That would have been, okay, so like 50, 40%, okay. Just because this was the COVID dump, so kind of a black swan event. Not that the price action shouldn't be taken seriously, but let's just say people were highly emotional, and with highly emotional times comes highly volatile and irrational behaviors in price. So it might not be good to consider this as like a normality, because it wasn't. It was absolutely unnormal times, non-common times in the world. But that's beside the point. We saw a big drop around the halving, right? A little bit before the halving. Once we had the halving, which was, I think it was May 11th. I don't remember. We'll just say it was this week. We didn't break out, and I mean we went up here, but we really didn't break out until about another 23 weeks later. If you want to say that it was here, you could say 11 weeks. Either way, still over 2 months. If not, 23 weeks. That makes more sense to me. That looks about right. If we're looking at this here, from the relative high that we have so far before the halving, we haven't had really a significant drop off at all. I mean, somewhat significant for Bitcoin. We've dropped off 19.15%. But to me, it's just not enough. Not with what we just looked at, all the history that we looked at. As confusing as I might have made it with my incorrect assumption that the 2016 halving was comparable in percentage to the 2020 halving. I suppose the 2020 was closer to the 2012 actually. But okay, hold up now. No, I don't want notifications. Have moved to the profile. Okay, gotcha. Anyways, I don't think that we've seen the end of this yet. It could happen, but this would be by far the smallest drop that we've seen, either pre-halving, going into the halving, or post-halving, whatever. It'd be the smallest drop that we've seen. If it's not the bottom, we probably do have lower to go, and that tune, in my opinion, would be to the tune of about like 50,000, 57,000, something like that, a little bit lower. I don't expect that we're going to drop 40% or 50% like we have historically, like we've done in the past. We could, and everything would still be fine. A lot of people think that if Bitcoin goes below 50K, that's it, that's over, the bull market's dead. But as we've seen previously, it's actually a very normal thing to do. I'm running with this theory that things are a little bit different now. We do have institutional highways, not just institutional money, because the narrative is that we have institutional money involved now. We've had that, at least since 2017. I think the earliest publicly announced purchases of Bitcoin from an institutional entity was in 2017. If not, it might have been earlier than that even, but at least 2017. Institutional money has been here is all I'm trying to say. That's not new. What's new is the highways, the on-ramps that are accessible to these institutional players and to people who just have a larger amount of money who, maybe they didn't take Bitcoin as seriously before. Maybe they don't want to invest in it themselves, but they feel comfortable investing in a custodian who dabbles in that and who handles the Bitcoin for them, so they buy the ETF. Anyways, we've got things set up for Bitcoin like we haven't had before. I don't assume that we're going to see the same kind of selling off because I think there's too much demand. I really do think there's, even in these times, even with the thought in mind that we are going to go lower, and I do think that we go lower from here. There's too much demand for it to go too much lower, in my opinion. I think that we might see something as low as about 49K. That absolutely is on the table, but right now I'm looking more at that like 51 to 57K area personally. If we take the relative low here, the most relative low we have to this relative high, you can see that you've got your 618 down there at about 49K, so that kind of makes sense. 57.5K being at the 382. It's very common on a strong move, and I would say that this is a strong move to pull back to your 382, go a little bit below it even, and then go up from there. All right, so all that would be saying, from a high to a low point there, that's about a 23% drop. That's still pretty insignificant compared to what we've seen historically. Again, historically being only 3 other iterations, we're on our 4th one now, so that's not a whole lot to go off of, but just spitballing ideas here. I do think that we're going to go lower. If we don't go lower, we're still not out of the woods yet, are we? Because as far as the halving goes, not the top goes, I really hope I'm making sense, guys. I feel like I've fumbled my words. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I don't make sense, and then I watch my video back, and I'm like, I think I made sense. But I make sense to myself. I know what I'm trying to say. I hope that you guys know what I'm trying to say. Looking at this on the weekly here, the minimum that we've seen, right, was 4 weeks, wasn't it? Wasn't it 4 weeks before we broke out? Back in 2012? I'm getting all caught up here. Oh, no, it was 7 weeks. My bad. 7 weeks. 4 weeks to the drop. That's where that was coming from. Okay, so 7 weeks from the halving date. Okay, and the halving, I believe, when was the halving actually? I think I was on vacation. When was the Bitcoin? Because I know we've had the date set up for a while, but it always changes. April 420. That's great. That's perfect. Of course it was. Man, the crypto industry is full of jokers. Let's see here. So 7 weeks at a minimum would put us out until about June of this year, early June of this year, before things really start to kick off again and start to go up again, right? So even if we don't go lower than this low, which I don't think is going to happen, I do think we do go lower than that. I think we will break 58K, potentially even break 57K, potentially even break 50K. And we'll be fine. If we go down to 49K, even if we broke 40K itself, Bitcoin will be fine, you guys. There is still the possibility to go down to prices as low as like 32K, 34K. Yes, those price targets are possible. No, that does not mean the bull market's over. I've made videos on as to why this kind of scenario could happen and everything would still be fine. In short, I'll kind of just do this real quick, actually, to show you what I'm talking about. If we take this same move, right, I'm just drawing this from a low to a high, right? That's the move. I just drew it roughly, whatever. It's not exact, but it's a pretty good approximation. If we were to put this down at 32K, right? Here's 32K right there, 32.2K. And let's say it took us until August to get there. Let's say we literally took until August, which I wouldn't think would happen. I think if we were to find our low and it was to be that low, I would think that would happen by the end of June. That's my genuine assumption. If we were to go that low, it'd be fast. I don't think we'd just work our way down all that time. We could, but let's just say it's by August, okay? Even if that happens, if we take this exact same move that we just had from low to high, right? It's a rough approximation. We put it here. Where are we at here? That's August, yeah. That would mean that by February, in less than a year from now, Bitcoin would be at prices right around 100K. Okay, so if the bull market's supposed to go on until April of next year, June of next year, August, September, October next year, which is what I personally think, or longer, I think that we're fine. We could see that kind of movement down and still be fine. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm talking about it more as like a, if this happens, no, things are not over. It's not the expected outcome for a lot of people. So I think it's very important to consider. I'll be right back. My daughter's crying. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Not sorry about that. You know how it goes, man. But yeah. And I mean, that actually, I just saw this line was just below right there, maybe having it literally right on it. You're literally right at 100K. Anyways, guys, again, I don't believe it's going to happen. I'm just saying, you know, you take this low here, you line it up with this low. If we were to go down to this line, I mean, that wouldn't even hit the expectations. Like we could break this structure, so to speak, and still be fine. It would still be a higher low overall. I wouldn't even think that we would go that low. But all that to say, let's get back on track. We could go lower than anything that we are genuinely considering, right? And my genuine considerations are prices around, let's see, 57.5K, probably closer to 57K, all the way down to about 49K, somewhere in there. That's my genuine kind of opinion as to where we could go, somewhere in this range. And I think that that will happen sooner than later. I think that if we look back in time, again, assuming it was like, what, 23 weeks, was it 9 weeks or 8 weeks, and then 7 weeks that we consolidated in the previous halvings. Let's see, or after the previous halvings, would have been this week here, 7 weeks being the minimum. I mean, that would put us out in June, right, in the very beginning of June. That makes sense to me. I would think that probably before June, we will find our low, okay, if we haven't found it already. Again, I am assuming that we go lower than this low here, which is at about $59,600. I am assuming we go below there, but if we don't, that still doesn't mean that we're just going up right now. We still have time before we start to move up, and this is the minimum amount of time. My genuine assumption would be that it's sometime in August. If we take 23 weeks, that puts us out in September. I'm thinking it could be sometime in August. It might be, maybe not quite 23 weeks. It could be longer. It is possible. It really could be longer. I know, as crazy as that sounds to you guys, it could be longer, right? The bull market would not be dead, I want to be clear. If we consolidated until September or October of this year, it would not be dead. It'd be put on pause, and then it would resume as it has done historically. Would this be a longer amount of time? Yes, but would we still have enough time in the cycle, what this cycle allows as far as time goes, to see prices for Bitcoin at several hundreds of thousands of dollars? Yes, we would have enough time for that. As I literally just showed, if we were even to go down to this 32K level, 30K level in August, we'd still hit 100K within the next, earlier than a year from now, essentially. Okay, so I've got a lot of noises going on right now. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but I'm doing laundry right now, and the laundry is pretty damn close to my desk, actually. That's my fault for starting it, but hey, whatever. Anyways, guys, just doing the general little checkup with the idea of what we're going to do here, right? It's going to be boring. It's going to be to the downside. I don't think we're done yet. I think we have a little bit more to go. Probably sometime in May, I would think we find our low. It could be sometime in June. It's possible. And the earliest expectation that any of us should have of breaking out of this zone here, let alone if we go lower, the earliest expectation would be sometime in early June. The more, I would say, expected, safe expectation would be sometime between late July to mid-September, in that time frame. So until then, we're not going to be moving down, right? Again, I said we're going to probably be moving down until late May, if sometime in May is what my thoughts are. But we're going to be moving sideways. We're not going to be doing anything too exciting for quite a while. So it's a perfect time to sell your house, sell your keys, sell your shoes, and buy some Bitcoins, man, and other cryptos, in that time. So in this time, there will be other coins that do well. There always are. Just because Bitcoin's going down or consolidating the whole time doesn't mean that other coins are going to. Most coins, while Bitcoin's moving down, will move down too. But there will be those coins that have their day, have their weeks, have their months even, and it could be starting now. But that's neither here nor there. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit off track of what I was trying to say. Putting my daughter back to sleep, that kind of threw things off. But if we look at the daily RSI here, lower highs, lower lows, rejecting the 618 from this relative high to low here, rejecting the 50 area. The daily RSI looks very bearish. I think we've got lower to go. Our next pit stop, so to speak, in my opinion, would be around 57.6K, which that lines up pretty well with that overall 382 from this low to this high here. Here, I'll just draw it real quick so you can see. Low to high right there. 382 with the 1272. It's beautiful. Okay. The 1618 lining up pretty well with this daily green line. And you guys know how I am about this green line here. If not, if you're new, let me just explain real quick. This is the 123 daily moving average, and generally speaking, in an uptrend, the most ideal points to buy, not always, right? Like this would have been an ideal point to buy right here, and it was above the green line, but generally they are below the green line. So as time goes on, this green line will continue to grow. Price continues to drop. We could find support right here at the 1618 at 55K, which is right between that 57K to 49K area that I've been addressing this whole video. But you know, right here also 50K at the 2272. Very common extensions to hit between both of these. You know, I do think that finding a low, if I was to be more exact, I'd say probably around 55K to 57K is what I would be looking for. And this could be it. This really could be it. And that all makes sense, because this would be, we could potentially find our low sometime in early May. If it takes more time, you know, it could be like late May, whatever. You know, it might not look exactly like that, but we have enough time to make this kind of expected low, a low that would make sense, a low that would be a nice area to find support. Although to be fair, hold on, let me put a line here. There's not really any price action going on, which I like to see a low come in where there's price action, but that's not required. I think a lot of people, I say I do, a lot of people like to see that, but it's not required. If we go back, I mean, you found support in this area. Yeah, you found a little resistance there, a little support. You know, there's a little bit of price action back there, historically speaking. I'll show you what I mean by it's nice to see, but it's not required, right? You take this low here. I guess, okay, you did come in with this low here, but a lot of people were expecting that we'd go down to this, where the wick actually hit, where the tops were here, and we kind of found it in the middle, right, in the middle of, or early of that low there. So all I'm trying to say is we don't have to go to relative areas of price. We could find support above it, and as far as fibs go, it would make sense to find support at 55K, in my opinion. But anywhere between 49K to 57K is what we've got on the table. I do think we're making a move now below 58K, and that's all I got to say. So if you like the video, hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more. I do apologize. I feel like I rambled a little bit or stumbled upon my thoughts a little bit there. I hope I wasn't too confusing. I know I can be at times. I know what I'm trying to say. I just don't know if I'm saying it to where it makes sense for everybody else. I hope it does. I would hope it does. That's all I got to say, man. Last little thing I guess I'll point out here is we've got a lack in volume, a substantial lack in volume right now. We are absolutely in a phase of consolidation, right? What else would you call this? This isn't a move, right? That's a move there. We've been consolidating. When volume dies off, you are near the end of your consolidation phase. When volume comes back in, right, when we get volume to come back in, price will pick a direction. And given everything that I've gone over with the halving cycles previously, I wouldn't expect that the direction would be to the upside. Not yet. Not yet. Inevitably, yes, but for now, for this move, I do think we're going to go down. I'm expecting that personally. So if you like the video, one last time, hit that like button. Bearish engulfing candle there. I think we've got boring and bearish times ahead of us, my friends, and that's all I'm going to say. So take care. Bye-bye. See you on the next one.